Hey brass players, I hope this video finds you doing well. I'm self-quarantining, of course, but I wanted to make a video to show you guys how to clean your instrument properly, just in case you forgot how to do so. So we're going to go on and get started. Just remember, if you have any questions, to email me or simply just send me a message in some way, and I'll be happy to talk with you about that. So you can see, you want to make sure you've got a nice towel. I've got my Mickey Mouse towel ready to go, and Larry, my euphonium, sitting on there ready to go. I got my bathtub full. It's about 2/3 of the way full with lukewarm water. Optionally, you can put some safe soap in there, such as like Dawn dish liquid. That'll be fine. I didn't do any of that today. But you can totally do that if you want to put some in there. That's fine, as long as it's like a dish soap and it's safe. So you want to make sure you have all of your supplies ready to go before you get started. The things you will need are a snake, your mouthpiece brush, and your valve brush. You also want to make sure you have all of your supplies for when you're done, such as valve oil and tuning slide grease. I'm also going to be using my towel at the end to wipe off some extra water and stuff, even though we're going to let it air dry. But we're going to go on and get started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take all of the things out of your instrument that you can. So I am going to lay mine out in order. I advise, if you might get it mixed up, to use sticky notes. I've done this quite a lot, so I will not be using sticky notes. But I'm going to start with my first valve. So I'm going to unscrew my first valve and take that out. And I'm going to lay that right there. And don't forget, a lot of us have springs inside the valves, so we want to make sure we take those out as well. There's my second valve. And here comes my third valve. I'm going to go on and take the springs out. I'm just going to kind of dump those there. And I'm actually going to lay the springs right here next to my valves so I know where they go. Then give me just 1 second. I'm going to flip this guy over, and we're going to take out the fourth valve. Some of you only have 3 valves, so you're already done at this point. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope no one's getting bored at home. I'm certainly enjoying some time with my baby and my puppy. Hopefully you guys are getting some good family time in. All right, I got my fourth valve undone here. Gonna put that there, take my spring out. All right, and now we're ready for the next step. So I've got all my valves laid in order. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to leave it there for just a little bit. Now I'm going to start taking out all of my slides one at a time. So just like I started with the first valve, I'm going to start with the first valve slide. And I'm actually going to put that with my first valve so I know that's my first valve slide. Here's my second valve slide. Notice I took the valves out first so you didn't have to worry about pushing them down when you take your slides out. Third valve slide, that one's long. And my fourth valve slide is actually right here. Fourth valve slide. And then on the back of my euphonium, I have some extra slides. But can't forget your main tuning slide, so we'll get that one out. I'm gonna set that over here. And then I've got my first valve slide in the back and my third valve slide in the back. Now, before I move on, I just want to say, horns, you guys will just need to make sure that you're taking as much off as you can. I don't want you to simply go in and try to take the rotor out or anything. You won't need to worry about that. But you can take some of the screws off and the valve caps and things like that, and you'll be fine. Trombones, you just need to be really careful, especially with that inner slide and the outer slide, but I do want you to take the outer slide off of the inner slide and put all the pieces in the bathtub separately and let them soak. So at this point, I've got everything out of my euphonium, and it is a lot lighter now. But just to make sure that we get it super duper clean, you want to make sure you take off your bottom valve caps as well, okay? So I'm going to take those off. I'll start with my fourth valve since I've already got them flipped over. And again, you want to put your fourth valve parts with your fourth valve so you know that that's where it goes. And then we'll do first valve. I need smaller hands for this. There we go. First valve. Second valve. And third valve. Now, tubas, you're going to have a little bit of a tougher time doing this because most tubas probably don't fit in a bathtub. So what I recommend doing is going on and filling the bathtub up, and you might just have to hold on to it and set it in the bathtub carefully and just sprinkle some water on it, just like you're giving a bath to your puppy dog or something. All right, so we got my euphonium, we're ready to go. I'm going to set the phone down and I'm going to give Larry a bath. We're going to submerge him in the water, and then I'll show you what that looks like. You might hear some funny sounds as we get water into the horn. Again, this is lukewarm water, just lukewarm water. All right, so what I'm gonna do, let me dry my hands off here. So I'm gonna let that soak for just a couple of minutes. You can see I've got him in the water. And now I'm gonna take this time and I'm gonna take each of my slides here and I'm gonna run the snake through it and get any gunk that might be in there. And that's why it's important to clean regularly. I clean mine at least once a month, and I'm still probably gonna have some gunk come out of there. So it's important to give your instrument a bath as often as possible, okay? So we'll start with the main tuning slide here. I'm gonna grab my snake. I'm gonna come over here to the bathtub. Just be careful that you don't drop anything on your instrument. So it's good to go on and just get some water in there. Just be careful of your spit valve, okay? You don't want to get it too wet for too long. I'm going to go on and submerge that. And then I'm going to take my snake. Let me unravel it here. And if you can kind of see, I'm going to take my snake and I'm just going to run it through all the way around. Now, these snakes are the ones from Amro, and they're really pretty good, but you have to be careful not to pull or push too hard with them, because when you do that, sometimes the brush part right here might pop off and get stuck inside your slide, and then we have a problem. So just be super duper careful, okay? So I ran the snake through once. Now I'm gonna put it back in the water, my slide. Try to get some of this stuff loose out of it, okay? And then I might run it through again, or you can do it as many times as you want. And I'm gonna go on and do it one more time. Run it through. And then put your slide back in the water. And then you're ready to move on to your next slide. So I'm gonna put that back on the towel, the same place I had it. And then I'll move on and do all the rest of my slides. So while I'm doing that, I'll just talk with you for a minute and give you some time to do yours as well. Alrighty, so here we go. I'm working on my first valve slide now. Running my snake through. Man, I sure do miss being in band with you guys. It's been a good time being at home, but I really do enjoy making music with you. I miss all of our daily warm-ups and hanging out with you and hearing your stories about how you don't want to be at school, and now you probably do want to be at school a little bit. But, you know, we got to follow the rules and do what we're supposed to do. And the more we follow our rules, the sooner we get to come back and have a normal time together. But, you know, you do need to use this time and spend some time with your family. I know you see them every day, and you're probably, if you're anything like me, you kind of get sick of people when you see them every single day for months and months and months and months on end. But, you know, enjoy the time that you do get, because you never know when you're going to get it back. And this is a great time to get to know your family a little bit more and learn what gets on each other's nerves and what makes each other happy a little bit better. It's also a good time to do any kind of, you know, things you've been really wanting to do but you haven't had the time to do. I don't know, maybe go outside and play some basketball, away from other people, of course. You're gonna self-quarantine, remember that. But yeah, it's a good time to get stuff done like that. But again, we really miss you, Mrs. Hembrook and Mr. Burgess and I. We call each other just about every day, and we talk about how much we just miss being at school and miss being around all of you. I'm hoping we'll be back soon. And a lot of you are probably done by now with all of your slides, but I've got a bunch of slides because I have a compensating euphonium. So it's going to take me just a little bit longer, but it gives me extra time for my instrument to soak, so that's all right. But the next thing you're going to do after you're done with all of your slides is you're going to move to your valves, but don't put your entire valve in the water. Let me show you exactly what we want to do with that, because we don't want to get any of the felts wet. So we got to be super duper careful when we put our valves in the water. It's also a good thing, especially if you're awesome and take care of your instrument the best that you can every day, you're probably going to notice there's quite a bit of slide grease residue on your tuning slides and things like that. So it's a good idea to try to wipe that off and get all that residue off, because we're going to put some brand new greases and oils on everything here at the end. So it's a great idea to get all that stuff taken care of and make sure that you're really cleaning the instrument well, because we want it to be in pristine condition. So I'm going through and wiping all of the grease. I'll just kind of take my hand and wipe all that grease off like that, and then just put it in the water and get all that off my hand. And yeah. Giving an instrument a bath is a dirty job. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. All right, I'm just about getting done here. I have a little bit of gunk coming out of my slides. I think that's all of them. All right, guys. So the next thing you want to do is your valves. So I'm just going to let my snake float in the water, let that chill for a minute. It's okay to let that happen. All right, so what you need to do is make sure you have your valve brush. It's the one that's a little bit bigger around, because it's actually going to go into the holes right here of your valve to get the gunk in and out of the holes. So like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you don't submerge the entire valve, because this felt right here, you want to make sure it doesn't get wet. Okay, now optionally you could take it off, but that makes things a little complicated, so I'm just going to leave mine on. But yeah, you can see I've got just a little bit of residue here and there from since the last time I gave my instrument a bath. So we're going to try to get some of that stuff off. So I'm not to get my phone in the bathtub here, but what you're going to do is you'll take your valve, you just dump it in the water until the very top, and then you're going to take your valve brush get it a little wet. And then you're just gonna shimmy it through just like that and try to get some of that gunk out of there. Okay, and go through every single one of the slots. And every once in a while you might want to, rinse your brush off. It's kind of like brushing your teeth. You got to get in all the nooks and crannies and get all the gunk out and get all your plaque out. Very important stuff. Let's see. Your instrument's like a body anyways. It talks to you. If it doesn't like you, it'll tell you. Yeah, so you'll do that for every valve. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time doing this, but I mean, if your instrument's really dirty, then you might need to really scrub dub. All right, so we're gonna continue doing this with the rest of our valves. I've got 4 of them. Now horns, with your rotors and all that, you have a pretty easy job since you're not taking the whole thing apart. You just want to make sure you're getting inside of the area where you take your valve caps off, and make sure you're getting those nice and clean. Trombones, you're probably like just about done at this point. All you really need to do is, with like a soft cloth or a rag, you can just wipe down all the residue off of your inner slide and outer slide. Take your snake and run it through both slides thoroughly and make sure that you're getting all the gunk out of them. And do the same thing through your actual trombone, which we're going to do that part here in just a minute with the euphonium. We're going to go through the instrument and kind of snake through all the slides and stuff like that. But yeah, you guys should be pretty much done. You don't have all these valves and stuff you got to worry about. That's what's cool about playing trombone. Easy to clean. I'm really excited about sending some of you guys these videos we're going to be taking a look at in the next couple weeks. There's a lot of neat stuff out there on the internet that you guys will have some fun. Most importantly, like I said in all the other videos, you don't need to stress about any of the stuff that we give you. Like, we want you to practice every day, of course. But the most important thing is just to have fun playing your instrument, because that's why you join the band. I love playing my instrument. I do it as much as I can. And sometimes I have a goal. Most of the times I have a goal. But sometimes I just get it out because I'm feeling down, or I just feel really excited about playing, and I just start playing. I'll look something up on the internet, or I'll just kind of mess around on my fundamentals and work on stuff that I feel like I need to work on just because I enjoy playing. And that's what it's all about. I advise giving a concert to your family. I play for my little baby boy all the time. He doesn't always know what to think about it, but cool. I got all my valves done. The next thing is we're going to get that snake back out, and we're going to run the snake through all these slides and the valves and get all the gunk out that way, okay? So I'll show you a couple as we do it, and then you can kind of follow along and continue going. So basically, I'm just gonna leave my euphonium in the water. I'm just gonna run that snake up there really gently, okay? And then we wanna make sure that we're not pulling too hard. If it does feel like it gets stuck a little bit, then just shimmy it a little bit left and right. That first one got a little stuck. So, but let's pretend it's stuck right now, which it's not. I can pull it pretty easily. But I just shimmy it back and forth like that and pull, and eventually it'll come loose. Just don't pull it too hard because you don't want it to break off in there, okay? I'm also simultaneously, like, if I see any residue on my instrument, I'm just kind of rubbing it off with my thumb. It should easily come off. But if it doesn't easily come off, that's a point where when you're done giving your instrument a bath, you want to give it a nice polish. They sell all kinds of different polish in local stores if you can find it. And now's a good time to do it if you don't have any, because who knows if they're going to close them down or not. But what I would do is, if you have a silver instrument like mine, I would go and get Wright's Silver Cream. It's spelled W-R-I-G-H-T, Wright Silver Cream. It's in a little white tub with a blue lid on it. You can just follow the simple directions on there, and it will show you how to polish your instrument. It's not made for polishing instruments, but it's made for polishing silver and silver lacquer. So that's what I've been using for many years to keep my instrument shiny and speckly. So I advise using that. And then if you have a brass instrument, which a lot of you do, you can get in the same exact aisle. I mean, it's probably right beside the Wright Silver Cream. There's a brass polishing cream. Sometimes it's Brasso, but it's made by the same company, and it's the same thing. You just follow the directions and you should be good to go. So I'm going through all my valves here with that snake and just kind of trying to get as much of this gunk out of it as I can. And don't be embarrassed if there's gunk that comes out of your instrument. That's a natural thing as brass players. We get stuff in our instruments because of all the oils and the things. It's just like your parents have to go and get their oil changed, and they have to clean out the oil filter and all that just to make sure that the car is running nice and smooth, so that they can get you to the movie theater or whatever, to the mall. So you want to make sure you're getting all that gunk out of there so that it performs in pristine condition. All right, so I'm going to flip Larry around here. Just make sure you're really careful with this part, because you don't want to crush your valves. And I've got some extra stuff back here I've got to clean. Oh, by the way, and I'll make this announcement later, but we have a YouTube channel now. So I'm going to go on and put my first YouTube plug out. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to our videos, DCMS Band, for all of your band needs. I've got to work on that. I'm not much of a YouTuber. I know some of you guys are. You're like really awesome YouTubers. I use YouTube a lot. Watch videos, but I haven't made my own channel until now. So if any of you guys have any pro tips on using YouTube, send me a message. Let me know what's up. Make this old guy learn. I'm just about done here. I've got just a few more slides. Okay. Cool deal. And the last thing I'm going to do is make sure you get your slide right here where your mouthpiece receiver is, because that's where you're probably going to get the most gunk to come out of, because that's where you blow. So that's going to be nice and fun. Just make sure you get all that stuff out. I would do that one 2 or 3 times. Let's get all that gunk out of there. So I'm going to let some of that gunk float around for a minute so we can get it out. And we're going to jump over to our mouthpiece real quick. Let me grab my mouthpiece out of my case. Got a handy dandy mouthpiece pouch. Keeps our mouthpiece protected. So just like with your valve brush, it's pretty easy to clean your mouthpiece. You just submerge it in the water. And then I'm just going to take that brush, my little mouthpiece brush, and I'm just going to scrub it down in there and go through both sides of it. And give it a good scrubbing in and out. And make sure you rinse that mouthpiece out and get all that gunk that you just got out. Now, I keep my mouthpiece pretty clean, so that was pretty quick for me, but some of you might need to do that a couple times. All right, so that's good to go. Put my mouthpiece over here on a towel. And now you can see that we have a complete mess. But cleaning your instrument sometimes just makes a mess. That's why I advise getting an awesome towel like me. Get you any kind of towel, your favorite towel. Now, I saved this spot over here to put Larry back on there. So, what we're gonna do is take Larry out of the bathtub now and let him air dry for a couple minutes. The best thing to do is to make sure you get all the water out. So what I'm gonna do, and I'll show you as we kind of do it a little bit best I can, because I only got one hand, but you wanna rotate your instrument, usually counterclockwise is the way to go, to get all the water out of all the slides before you put it out on the towel, okay? So you wanna make sure all the water is out of the bell and out of all the slides. We don't want any water in there at all, so that when we put our slides back in there, we don't have any water to worry about. So I'm just gonna kind of dump some of that water out. You can see it kind of coming out everywhere. I'm gonna use 2 hands for safety. But I'm just rotating it around counterclockwise, and you'll hear all the water coming out of it. And I would do it about 4 or 5 times just to make sure that the water's spinning around and you get all the water out of all the slides. Okay. Just rotating it. Larry loves bath time. Okay. So now I'm just gonna lay Larry down on the towel, and we're gonna let him air dry for a minute. And we're just about done. We're about ready to wrap up. So basically all you do from here is, after you let it air dry a little bit, you just dry the water spots off with your towel, and maybe rub it down with your polishing cloth after that, after it's all dry. Then you got to put everything back in. So make sure you have everything in order. Start with your first valve, second valve, third valve, fourth valve if you have one, and all of your corresponding slides. And I'm just going to walk you through again how to oil everything properly and grease everything. So I'll just show you how that works really quick, and then we'll wrap everything up. So we'll start with how to oil the valves. Normally I wouldn't take the whole valve out, but I got my valve oil here. What I'm gonna do is simply, I'm just gonna put some oil right there and kind of let it trickle down the side of the valve. I know you can't really see very well, sorry. So I'll have to kind of do it standing up. But I'm gonna take my valve oil and just let it trickle down a little bit there. Okay, and after you've already put the spring in and everything, you'll take it and just kind of like rotate your valve around, okay, and make sure that everything's getting the oil all over it, and then you'll put it in and it'll be good to go. Now, very important, right here, you'll have a white piece, a little white plastic piece. It's called the valve guide, okay? And a lot of us have trouble with our valve guides sometimes. Let me take the valve out because I want to show you something. So you see really close right here on my euphonium, there's a little slit right there. You see how it's got a little indentation right there? So the valve guide, the little white plastic piece right there, goes in that slot, okay? So if it's not lined up properly, the valve won't go in and it won't make a good sound, okay? So you want to make sure you're doing that. And then secondly, a lot of you have a slightly different valve guide than I do. Mine's implanted inside of my valve, but some of yours is just sitting on top. It's like a whole white round plastic piece that goes right there. And you'll notice that you have some holes right there around the top. There's like a small hole and a big hole. The valve guide should be sitting in the small hole at all times, okay? And if you're not sure, your valve guide, if it comes off, just make sure it's always in the small hole, because there'll be 2 of them. There'll be a big one here and then a small one. And you want to make sure that it's sitting down on the small one, because if it's sitting down on the big one, you won't be able to get a sound in your instrument. And sometimes we run into those issues. So, when you put your valves back in, you want to make sure that you start with your cap first, your bottom cap. You're going to put that on. You're going to screw that on. And this guy, the spring, is so important. You got to put that spring in. Now trumpets, most of you, your spring is inside your valve, so you won't need to worry about that. But for the rest of us that have just a normal spring like this, they're so easy to lose, so be super duper careful with them. You'll just put the spring back into the valve stem, or the valve hole, and then you'll put your valve in and screw it back on, and then it should be good to go. And then lastly, when you're greasing your slides, you got your tuning slide grease, and some of us have like a, looks like a chapstick too, and that's fine. But you want to make sure that you wash your hands after this too, by the way, wink wink. You'll just put a little bit on your hand or on your finger. Okay, got some grease there. And then I'm just gonna rub that on there, right there, on both sides, okay? Make sure that you get plenty of grease all over it. And then you simply put one side in at a time and just kind of make sure the grease is working all the way around the slide. And do it on this other side. Okay, and then you can put the whole thing in. And so now my whole slide is in. But I want to make sure that sometimes you'll get some residue, some leftover grease right here. So just take a soft towel and wipe that off before you polish it, because you don't want to polish that grease into your lacquer, okay? And that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to end my video, and I'm going to put Larry all back together and get him dried up, polished up, and that'll be good. So if you guys have any questions about how to clean your instrument, feel free to let me know. It's been good chatting with you. I will talk at you later. Bye.